Hi, welcome to another edition of the Everlast Power video series. Today we're going to be looking at how to wire up your unit. Now, today's edition we're going to discuss 120, 240, and three-phase wiring of your units. Even though our welding and plasma cutting line covers a wide range of product, wiring is fairly straightforward. On the small end of our product line, most of our welders and plasma cutters feature dual voltage capability. That means they'll run on either 120 volt or 240 volt. We're going to begin by showing you how to wire 120. This is going to cover the smaller TIG, stick, MIG, and plasma cutters. We ship our units with plugs, but we do use standard wire colors, so that helps you to wire up your unit in accordance to code. As a note, our welders come pre-tested from the factory, so that these wire ends may actually look like they've been used. If you need to, you can simply cut these off, strip these wires again, and remove a little more sheathing so that you can make a proper connection inside your plug. If you live in the US or Canada, you're going to know that these are 120 volt receptacles. What you may not know is the receptacle on the right is a 15 amp and the one on the left is a 20 amp receptacle, which features a perpendicular prong here. Now, the 20 amp will accept 15 amp plugs or 20 amp plugs. These plugs are actually rated for 125 volts, but older terminology and wiring standards used to refer to these as 110. Sometimes you'll see 115, but most commonly you'll see 120 listed these days. Let's talk about the 5-15 plug first. 5-15 is a common plug that you're going to find in nearly every household, shop, and garage. However, if you push our units to the maximum, it's going to actually pull 20 amps. And you'll need to go to this plug, which is the 5-20P. Now, the NEC allows some derating for duty cycle limited machines, which could possibly allow you to use this plug in most circumstances. However, you need to follow your local code and what it dictates to you to do so that you'll be always operating in a safe range. We're going to show you as much as we can step by step how to wire this up. Keep in mind that you need to open up your strain relief wide enough to stick your wires through it. Feed it through and slide your back cover down the wire for now. Let's look at the plug for a second. You have a green screw, a white screw, and a gold screw. In any 120 volt system, you're going to have a common wire, a hot wire, and a ground wire. It's easy to remember the ground because it's always green. Green is always going to be your ground. White, or the silver screw, will always be your white wire. And the gold screw will always be your black or hot wire. Now, don't confuse your polarity. You need to always make sure that your white is on the common and black is on the gold. If you reverse the polarity here, you can do damage to the unit. So we finished wiring this correctly here with the black wire on the gold screw, the white wire on the silver screw, and the green wire on the green screw. Now that we've installed the cover, make sure that your strain relief is tightened properly so that your cable is secure and will not pull out. Have a single 240 single phase unit or a dual voltage 120 240 unit. Wiring 240 is essentially the same. We're going to cover that now. For the United States, this is a standard welder receptacle. This is a 3-prong, 3-wire system. For the United States, a welder is wired with only 3 wires if it's running on 240 volt. Now, this is the standard plug that we recommend. That's a NEMA 6-50R for receptacle and a 6-50P for plug. And of course, this is what we recommend, the 6-50P, which is a standard welder plug for the US and Canada with the 3-wire system. In 240 volt wiring, your wire colors are the same as it is in 120 volt wiring for a welder. You have the green, white, and black configuration. Now, on our product here, we have actually the wire colors listed where each wire color should go. You have white, green, and black. Inside, you've got a green screw here, and then you have two brass colored screws here. In 240 volt wiring for a welder, both your white and your black wires are going to be hot. When you're wiring a 240 volt welder, both your white and your black wires will be hot. However, they designate your white wire for the smaller prong and your black wire for the bigger prong. And of course, green is always going to be up here in the middle as your ground. Of course, we just discussed the fact that the black wire will be on the larger prong, the white will be on the smaller, and green will always be on the green screw up here in the middle for your ground. It's very hard to confuse it. If you actually did confuse it, the white and the black turned around would work. But since this is the way that they have designated it for us, you want to use the white for the small prong. We're going to install the wires at this point, but I want to make a note for you here. These screws here sometimes are very difficult to get tight. So when you're tightening them down, don't just stop when it gets snug. You need to go that little extra mile to make sure that the wires are completely clamped onto the terminal. While you're tightening, sometimes this little metal shield right here will get turned sideways or get cocked, and it'll actually feel like the wire is tight when in fact this is actually jamming and the wire is not tight. Again, make sure that you've got either your bushing or your adapter for your strain relief installed first. Don't forget that, because this is very important to the operation of this unit. If one of these wires comes loose because this wire is pulling, then you're going to lose power, or the unit's going to perform erratically for you. Sometimes it helps in installation to actually remove the prong so that you can install it directly on the wire. Now the problem is that you may actually get these bottom wires confused here in the direction that they go back in. But there's typically a little nub or a little prong right here that keeps you from installing these things reverse. Make sure when you pull them apart that you don't forget which way your screws are headed when you pull them out. Make sure you strip off enough extra insulation so that the wire can go all the way through the terminal. Okay, we've completed wiring this plug. Now make sure that your green wire is long enough to give you plenty of play here to wire your green wire. Again, make sure your strain relief is tight. This is very important to keep your wires from pulling out from your plug and causing operational problems. Our PowerArc 300, PowerTig 250EX, and PowerPlasma 100 feature dual phase single voltage wiring. That means it'll run either on single phase 240 or on three phase 240. If you got a PowerArc 300, a PowerTig 250EX, or a PowerPlasma 100, you're going to have this wiring configuration. This is a dual phase wiring configuration for a product that can run off a 240 volt single phase or 240 volt three phase. We've got the same standard white, black, and green wires here with an additional red wire. To wire this unit for 240, it's very simple. We're still going to use the same wiring colors as we used with the other units with the 240. We're just going to take this red wire here and tape it up out of the way. Simply clip this off and tape it with some electrical tape back so that it's no longer in the way. And once again, we can wire this unit up correctly the same way that we did with the standard 240 wiring. Now if you're operating our units on three phase, you're going to want to find a three phase twist lock plug, or you're going to want to wire it directly into the panel. At this point, the red wire comes back into play. Both your white, black, and red are your hot wires. We also have a few industrial products in our product line which feature a different type of wiring. Should you have any question about those type products, please give us a call at the number at the end of the video.